Hi everybody, it's Vince Sellers again with another episode of FBI Talk. I'm doing a deep dive today on the firearms training portion of the FBI Academy. So sit back and relax, soak in my hot air, and I hope you enjoy it, and maybe it puts you to sleep. So again, whatever floats your boat. I appreciate you tuning in, and again, I enjoy doing these, and I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and with all the positive comments, it makes me want to keep coming back. All right, so without further ado, Sellers! I've heard Sellers yelled many, many times at the FBI Academy when standing on the firing line. You get your FBI hat, and it has embroidered your name on the back, and yeah, heard that name mentioned more than a couple of times. If you were not doing everything exactly according to plan, form was not correct, not looking in the right spot, just not doing what you really need to be doing exactly as told as you're going to do or supposed to do, you'd hear your name yelled. So that was kind of a running joke with my roommates, and yeah, because we heard my name a fair amount. Some other people did too, but nevertheless, I was a favorite target within the firearms realm. No pun intended for target there, but nevertheless. So I came into the FBI being fairly experienced with guns and comfortable. I grew up around them, growing up on a dirt road in Texas, and as a kid, I'd spend the summers roaming the fields with a BB gun and then a 22 as I got older, and then, a shotgun. Grew up with that culture, which I've kind of, fallen away from, a bit, but nevertheless, I grew up in that environment, being comfortable with guns, pistols, you name it. My parents showed me how to shoot guns, how to clean them, and do all those things from a kid on up. So I was not at all concerned. When I showed up at the FBI Academy, I'm like, oh yeah, firearms? That's going to be fun, and I'm going to be good to go. And the reality was that the other agents their experience ranged from nothing, being terrified of a gun, never touched one. There were definitely a number of folks actually in that boat. So if you're in that boat and you want to be an FBI agent, don't worry, they will teach you how to shoot. And in some ways, I think that it maybe is even to your advantage if you've never been trained and are not comfortable with guns, because you're going to take them very seriously. And that's what they want. And they're right to want that. You need to take guns seriously. Guns, I don't want to get into guns kill people versus kill people debate, but the reality is lots of people die by being shot every year. There's no question about it. So safety should be paramount. I don't think anyone would argue with that. So other experienced folks in there include former police officers, and a number of military folks that had much more experience than I did with firearms. So there's a wide variety in there. So you go for a long time, a number of weeks at the FBI Academy before you even get to touch a gun, learning the basic safety rules. So let's see if I can remember them. Just a test here. I won't cheat. Keep the gun always pointed in a safe direction. So, always keep it pointed away from people. Keep your finger off the trigger unless you intend to use it. So unless you're going to actually shoot, never rest your finger on the trigger. Always keep it off. And the instructors are looking for that. That was maybe my toughest habit to break. I was used to going around hunting and have my finger on the trigger ready to shoot. And I did not have that ingrained. And it was ingrained by the time I left, but I did have to hear Sellers a few times screamed at the top of someone's lungs to really get that through my thick skull. But it got through. And then what was the last one? Always assume a gun is loaded. So that one definitely strikes home with me because I'm probably the only person in my class that actually, as far as I know, actually technically have been shot. I've been shot with a shotgun in my knee as a kid. My brother assumed a gun was unloaded. We were cleaning them after going hunting. I was probably 10 years old, and I got shot in the knee. It only took out just a little flesh wound, just a small chunk. It didn't damage anything really, just cosmetic. And yeah, nevertheless, you always have to assume a gun is loaded. And they take that to the extreme, and I think it's wonderful at the FBI Academy. No matter whether you know the gun is unloaded, it's clearly there's not a magazine in there. The slide's pulled back. You've looked twice. They train you to look twice every time if you're clearing the gun or looking to see if it is loaded. You always check twice before you disassemble it, and you still assume that that it's loaded. Always, just assume that, and then treat it that way. Treat it as if it's loaded, and then nobody should get shot. If you always treat it loaded, there shouldn't be an accidental shooting, and that would have prevented me from getting shot in the knee when I was a kid. If my brother had assumed that it was loaded and pointed it in a safe direction when cleaning and kept his finger off the trigger. He was actually cleaning the trigger when I got shot. So go figure. The rules actually do matter, and I have firsthand experience to testify that if you follow those safety rules, most likely there will not be any bad consequences. So anyway, you learn all about that stuff. I'm sorry for that tangent, but you learn all about that stuff. You have to be ready to repeat that in a moment's notice. They'll just pick you out. Sellers, repeat the rules, whatever. That kind of stuff. So before you actually get your hands on an actual gun, a Glock, there's a Glock 22, the 22 being the model, is 40 caliber. So you learn all about it. You get a plastic called blue handle. It's just a plastic molded gun, no moving parts. It's just looks like a toy. You get that, you get your holster, and you get lots of practice in, breaking in your holster and pulling the gun out, keeping it in a safe direction, keeping your finger off the trigger. All of those things, you practice. You practice that for weeks and weeks and weeks before they finally unveil the actual Glocks and let you get your hands on those. Once you get your hands on those, guess what though? You're not actually going to get to fire bullets with them. They put in plastic bullets. So you go click, click. You practice getting in your sights and learning how to shoot the FBI way, which is the right way, by the way. You practice all that a gazillion times. You practice clearing your gun. So you've got these plastic bullets. So you get real comfortable with loading your magazines, and they watch you, making sure you're keeping things pointed in a safe direction. They make sure you get all the fundamentals down the right way before actually giving you actual ammunition to start firing. And eventually, yes, you actually get to start firing actual ammunition at an actual target range. It's certainly not just like going to your local gun range where, yeah, okay, well, you're good to go. You guys are trained. Knock yourselves out. No. You're lined up. You face the targets. Everyone fires at the same time. You listen to your commands. Everyone's doing everything in unison for the most part. And the instructors, there's probably 5 instructors for roughly 30 people, so 5 or 6 people per instructor. They're watching every move. They're watching in between shots to make sure your finger goes to the trigger, presses the trigger, and then it's back off. They're making sure that gun's pointed in a safe direction. When you change out your magazine, they're looking for all that stuff. If they don't, they are going to yell your name. Again, been over that enough, but believe me, they will do it. So pay attention. Save yourself some headaches, and try not to get on the bad side. So what else can I tell you? So they do some other exercises that are kind of fun. You learn to shoot shotguns and the different types of rounds, slugs and that type of stuff. So you get into that the longer that the firearms goes along. So firearms gets more and more fun the longer that the time passes. So I enjoyed it more and more as I got close to concluding at the FBI Academy. You learn to shoot MP5s, the semi-automatic, weapons there. So you get to play with some cool toys, right? I mean, it is a neat thing. You will have fired thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds by the time you leave the FBI Academy. I remember thinking that it was roughly 5,000 rounds that I fired when I was there, not including many more times that the number of trigger pulls with trigger presses, depending on your persuasion there. You practice many times with the plastic bullets and just your blue handle. So you get in plenty of practice over many months. And nevertheless, so they really train you the right way. They do have you participate in, they have kind of a training simulator where they have people and I mean, it almost reminds me of one of these video games where you have the good guys and the bad guys, these light gun games, except it's like a big fancy light gun basically and a giant screen. And so it grades you on how you do on that. So that's more for fun. You're not really tested on that per se, but it's just another exercise to get you thinking on, how to distinguish targets and, and they do reinforce, when don't use your weapon unless you absolutely have to. There's no warning shots. They train you to eliminate a threat. You don't try to eliminate a threat by scaring somebody or shooting next to them or shooting them in the foot. That does not eliminate the threat. You eliminate the threat by shooting in the middle of the mass and shooting until that threat is incapacitated, which translation means most likely someone's dead. So so there's that mental aspect. That's one other thing I want to mention. They do show you some videos and recordings of people that have been in shootouts, including horrible maiming, shot with shotguns, and just to, it's the same thinking, I guess, as, if you're learning to drive and you watch the defensive driving videos that show the crashes and horrible carnage, that kind of stuff. So same kind of thing, except with guns. And it's bad. I mean, they have some law enforcement sensitive stuff that they show that you're probably not going to see anywhere else, fortunately. And it sticks with you. I mean, I still remember some of those images, like it's just things you can't unsee. And that's part of the seriousness of being an FBI agent. You've got that gun on you almost all the time. And at any moment, something that goes south. And if you've got a gun on you, someone can get it from you, and you don't want to be a victim, nor do you want to shoot somebody that, unless you really have to. So all those things start weighing on your psyche a bit. And it's one of the reasons I'm glad I'm not in the FBI, is I really don't worry about that stuff anymore. But nevertheless, different episode. But the firearms, ultimately, it is fun. And what else can I tell you? They do test right up to the end. You get a grand finale on the FBI Pistol Qualification course. I think I wound up shooting like a 90 out of 100 or something like that. Maybe just an 88, but pretty good, average, at least, maybe slightly above average. And almost everybody in my class passed. There was one guy I know that just fell short, and he wound up getting kicked back to the previous class. So that's probably the biggest risk. And we had some folks that graduated with me that were in the class before me, failed the firearms, they get kicked back a couple of weeks, or to the most, the next upcoming class. Could be 2 weeks, could be 4 weeks. They have to repeat all their academics during that time, attend all the same classes again, and hopefully pass the firearms portion. So nevertheless, that's the worst case, but most people pass really without much problem. And again, if you don't, they'll get you up to speed, they'll get you some extra help, and ultimately, I'm pretty confident that the very much vast majority of people wind up passing, at least with that 70%, rating, if you will, on the pistol qualification course. So, that's pretty much it. One more thing I do want to mention. The instructors on day one are complete a-holes. Some of them, though, you start seeing their sense of humor and their sarcasm, and you realize they're kind of playing with you a little bit, and then over time they get cooler. Still not nice guys, but you can tell they're great. They're actually great guys and doing their job and doing it well for good reason. I mean, firearms you don't want to mess with. And then when you go to graduate, the last time that you're all together, and the last time that you are all together to shoot your guns, the firearms instructors get up. They actually introduce themselves at that time, tell you their names, and a little bit about themselves. And I thought that was kind of cool, because it is weird on day one, you go in and you don't even know anything about them, maybe just their last name, what to call them, and that's it. But it's sir, basically, is what you call them. And by the end, then they're like, my name's Frank. I did this, and I've been, did that, or whatever. And there's some great guys. And so I thought that was kind of a cool personal touch. You build up to, to the finale, if you will, and it gets better and better. And then the grand finale, of course, is when you graduate from the FBI Academy. You get your credential, all your credentials and everything. You're a full-fledged agent. And the last thing you do, you've loaded up your car, you stop by that armory one last time, go check your gun out one last time. Firearm instructors there, give you a big pat on the back and a handshake and say, congratulations, you're an agent and you got a gun. And then that's the first time that you're allowed to take that gun out of the FBI Academy. And then for real, you're an agent heading off to your next field office. So there's really no better feeling in life. Maybe that's about the pinnacle of life is, for me, is graduating to the FBI Academy and getting that gun from the armory and walking to my car. I'll never forget that feeling. Like, it's just amazing. So anyway, it all culminates with that. So, all right, enough hot air for me. I'll let you go to get on to do other important stuff. But I appreciate you tuning in. Feel free to ask any questions. I try to get to those. It takes me a while sometimes, but I eventually try to get to all those comments. And I also am accepting any suggestions for future episodes if there's something you want to hear more hot air from me. As you can see, I can deliver it. All right, everybody, stay safe, and I really appreciate you guys tuning in and all the positive feedback. It's fun. This is fun for me to do. So stay safe out there, and have a great day. Appreciate it.